The morning in our small apartment in Seattle began with a hot cup of coffee and hope for a new day. My husband, Pavel, and I were finally able to afford to buy our own home in this city. It was our first big step towards a stable future. We were still getting used to living in a new apartment when the news of our purchase spread among all our friends and relatives. And although we tried to keep it a secret, the information spread faster than we expected. Everything will be fine. We will save money. Pavel is promised a raise by the summer, I reassured my husband. The most important thing is that this is our home. I had no idea that my mother, who knew about the apartment, would tell literally everyone about it. Within a few days, the phone started ringing nonstop. Relatives, acquaintances, everyone wanted to see our new home. The first to visit was my godfather, Michael, whom I hadn't seen for many years. "This is such news. You are real city dwellers now," he said, shaking Pavel's hand. "I hope you don't forget about your family." These hints made me feel uncomfortable, but Pavel intervened in time and ended the conversation. He always protected me from my family, who often felt they had the right to interfere in our lives. But this time he was especially irritated. "Why did you tell everyone about the apartment?" he asked when Uncle Michael left. "I only told my mother. She's the closest person. How was I to know that she would tell others?" I answered with tears in my eyes. Pavel sighed, moved closer, and hugged me. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. They'll just start coming like they're visiting a museum. And it won't stop unless we set boundaries." We tried to calm down and hoped that this stream of guests would end soon. But the next morning, I opened the door to meet my sister Katie. She was standing in the doorway with large suitcases and her son in her arms. "Hi, little sister. I thought you had a place for Johnny and me now," she said happily without even waiting for an invitation. "Katie, what are you doing? Why are you here?" I asked, trying to figure out what was going on. She walked past me, put down her suitcases, and smiled. "I have a plan. Tomorrow we're going to the notary and get Johnny registered here. I need some time to find a job and build a new life in Seattle. And you're my sister. You have to help." "Katie, that's not possible. I can't let you stay here. Pavel and I have just started building our lives." My voice trembled with indignation. Katie just smiled. "Oh, don't worry. I'm only here for a short time. As soon as I find a rich husband, I'll move in. And Johnny can stay with you." I was shocked by her impudence. At that moment, Pavel came into the kitchen. He looked at Katie intently and silently listened to her tirade about how she was better than me and that he should have chosen her. Pavel remained silent, but his gaze grew colder. Finally, he took Katie by the elbow and led her to the door. "We appreciate your family love, but this is our home," he said, closing the door in her face. Katie banged on the door for a long time and screamed, but finally left. I sat in tears, trying to understand how my relatives could behave like this. Pavel hugged me and said, "Don't worry, you always have me and I will protect you, no matter what." The next morning, the phone rang again. It was Mom. She accused me of destroying the family, of being ungrateful and cold. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. "You know what? I don't need these accusations anymore," I said and hung up the phone. I decided that I would no longer try to please relatives who didn't appreciate me. Instead, I would focus on my marriage and on building a life with someone who would always be there for me. After all, family isn't always who you grew up with. It's who loves and respects you. And I finally realized that my real family was Pavel. A few days later, as Pavel and I sat on the porch of our apartment, it dawned on me how important this understanding was. I no longer felt guilty for protecting myself and my life. Pavel, holding my hand, said quietly, "You and I will get through this, no matter how hard it is." Now we have our own home and our own rules. And at that moment, I realized that we were on the right path. Our life was just beginning, and I was ready for any challenges that might arise along the way. The main thing is that I am no longer alone.